Most monsters are built for low-level play in order to ensure that more players will get to experience them. Due to that, after about CR5, diversity in monsters reduces. These are the best of those monsters, from each challenge rating of 6 through 15. When these monsters are encountered in high-level games, they should provide a significant challenge. And starting list at number 10, representing CR6, we have the Kuo-Toa Archpriest from the Monster Manual. This slippery fisherman is effectively a high cleric of a god, worshipping them with fervor. This god is entirely artificial, made like a tulpa from the collective belief of the Kuo-Toa, but manifests physically. Because of this, they are granted power through the strange nature of this manifested god. The Archpriest is, like the Kuo-Toa, fully amphibious, equally suited to land and sea. It's capable of sensing invisible creatures, including ones in motion or even on the ethereal plane. So using spells to render yourself hidden is ill-advised at best. These creatures also have advantage against any effects of initiated grapple, so don't try to grab their slippery bodies. If you catch them in melee, they can hit you with a scepter twice for a whopping 1d6 plus 3 bludgeoning and 4d6 lightning damage, but they would prefer to keep you at range with their sweetest spells. They are a 10th level spellcaster, so they have access to 5th level spells. And because they're an Archpriest meant to lead their people, these creatures will be accompanied by their fellow Kuo-Toa. They can protect themselves, bolstering their low AC of 13 with spells like Shield of Faith for extra AC, or Sanctuary to make it much harder to attack them in general. They can lock down a zone with Spirit Guardians, one of the best 3rd level spells, dealing damage to anyone that comes near them, or they can paralyze a foe with Hold Person. And they can even keep their allies alive with Mass Cure Wounds, healing up to 6 of them simultaneously. If you must fight a Kuo-Toa Archpriest, try to make sure you do so in the light of day, where their sunlight sensitivity will give you at least some matter of edge against them. And if you're a DM thinking of using this monster, try to make sure you're ambushing the players in or near a body of water so the Kuo-Toa can best level their ability to maneuver through the water and land. Because it represents the lowest CR on the list, this creature is an easy pick for number 10. But due to its excellent spell selection and high damage on its melee attack, it's also a good choice for CR6 in general. A less handsome Squidward lookalike at number 9, we have the Mind Flayer from the Monster Manual. This classic monster, popularized by being the focal point of Baldur's Gate 3, represents CR7 with a powerful, dominant air. This creature is the remnant of an ancient empire spanning many worlds, where they enslaved countless species using their powers to bend and shape other creatures' wills to their purpose. This creature is able to dominate the wills of others by casting Dominate Monster once per day, taking full control of another creature for up to an hour. This can potentially turn an ally into an obstacle to overcome until the damage they take causes them to succeed the save, or until they decimate all of their friends. At will, they can use a spell to detect thoughts to dig inside your brain and know exactly what you're thinking and planning. And it can use Levitate to keep itself out of range of your martial characters until it's ready to engage. Once it is, it can strike with its tentacles, dealing a marginal amount of psychic damage and automatically grappling a foe stuck this way. And if that foe fails an intelligence save, they're also stunned until the grapple ends, leaving them incapable of taking actions, reactions, or moving, failing any dexterity or strength saving throws without rolling them. Once a target is grappled, they begin the process of extracting their brain on subsequent turns, dealing 10d10 piercing damage on a successful hit, and with advantage if the target happens to be stunned, or until the target breaks free of the hold or reaches 0 HP, at which point the Mind Flayer kills them and consumes their brain with no save. If a group of allies focus it together, then it can unleash a powerful Mind Blast about once every 3 rounds, hitting a 60-foot cone for 4d8 plus 4 psychic damage to any creature in the area that fails an intelligence save, and stunning them until they succeed at the end of their turn, eating at least 1 turn's worth of actions. As if all of this was not enough, these creatures are proficient in all 3 mental saving throws, and have magic resistance, which gives them advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects. Because of this, they are all but impossible to affect with any mind-altering effect, and most debuffing spells will just not work on them. However, targeted magical spells that deal damage like Scorching Ray are perfectly effective against them, and may break their grasp on concentration of Dominate Monster and or Levitate, giving you the edge to break back into the combat. If they fear they will lose, they will not hesitate to use their once per day plane shift to escape and live to fight another day. If you can counterspell it, you should have guaranteed yourself victory. And slithering its way into number 8, and incidentally also being CR8, we have the Spirit Naga from the Monster Manual. These creatures are beings of eternal spite, plotting vengeance against any they believe who have wronged them in order to enact petty revenge, much like certain people. Unlike those people, Spirit Nagas have a bite to them, literally. They have venomous fangs they prefer to kill their foes with. These fangs deal 1d6 plus 4 piercing damage, alongside a massive 7d8 poison damage, or half the poison damage on a successful con save. To get their foes close in order to use those fangs, they have spells like Charm Person, Dominate Person, and Hold Person, all of which are different flavors of come here or stay there. On top of that, they also have access to Dimension Door, which lets them teleport up to 500 feet in order to reach fleeing foes and bite deep into them, or to move past them to lie in wait for them to make the wrong move. They can chase you down swiftly through more mundane means as well, with a 40-foot move speed, faster than most players will be. If they really don't like you and your friends, you can send a lightning bolt searing through your party to deal a ton of lightning damage to multiple foes at once. As a snake-like creature, you may not be surprised to learn that they're immune to poison and the poison condition. But they also have immunity to charm effects, rendering you unable to flip the script on them. They are proficient in a whopping 4 different types of saving throws, those being Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma. You know, the most common saving throws that spells might make them roll against. Now, for a good bit of news and bad news, they only have 15 AC and 75 HP, which is pretty below normal for the CR range. So, if you're able to swiftly deal a ton of damage, you can kill them without being able to defend themselves terribly well from the arrows or blades. However, they are unable to be kept dead. They return to life anywhere from a day to a week, only staying dead if you use a 9th level spell Wish to keep them dead. Oh, and if you don't keep them dead with a Wish, you are for sure on their spite list. So they'll dedicate a not insignificant amount of time thinking of ways to torment you and your loved ones until they've thoroughly destroyed you. I did say there was bad news after all, just didn't really specify the scope. I recommend doing your best not to make a spirit Naga mad at you, sucking up to them if they consider you to have spited them. Otherwise, you may find yourself with a reoccurring antagonist who will never stop until you're dead or you've reached 17th level. Proving that Pondery has the potential to provide passionate punches, at number 7 we have our CR9, the clay golem from the monster manual. This large construct is made, as the name implies, of clay, containing an elemental spirit of earth within it. However, because clay is not the best material for binding life, if it takes damage, it has a chance of going absolutely insane, charging the nearest creature and attacking it. If there's no creature nearby, the golem will destroy a nearby object, acting with 0 impulse control. These creatures are immune to psychic damage due to not having a mind to assail, and poison damage because they don't really have anything for the poison to do, and acid damage due to the elemental spirit within them, and so immune to acid that they actually regain hit points from any acid damage they would take. They also are immune to non-magical, non-adamantite physical damage, any effect that would change their shape or form, like polymorph for instance, and a whole host of conditions: charm, exhaustion, fear, paralysis, petrification, and poison. Luckily for spellcasters, their best spells don't deal acid, poison, or psychic damage. Unluckily for them, clay golems have magic resistance, giving them advantages on any saves against spells, like Fireball. Still, with a -1 dexterity modifier, it is liable to deal its damage unless it rolls particularly high, and every 3 rounds the golem can imbue itself with haste until the end of its next turn, giving itself +2 AC, bringing it up to 16 from 14, advantage on dex saves, and the ability to slam as a bonus action. Speaking of the slam, it can make 2 of these, and each one deals 2d10 plus 5 bludgeoning damage, plus forces a con save, or else the target's hit point maximum is reduced by the same amount, making healing magic ineffectual until the target receives a greater restoration spell or better restorative magics. If the target's maximum HP becomes 0 from this, they die immediately without making any death saves. If you can chew through all 113 of the clay golem's hit points by kiting it from range, its 20-foot movement speed will keep it from reaching you very easily. However, if you encounter this creature in an enclosed space, or with some fast harriers that can keep you from pulling this strategy, beware. It will knock you senseless, and you'll have very little you can do about it. Playing the victim like a professional gaslighter at number 6, we have the Elder Oblex from Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. Originally printed in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, this CR10 ooze is a memory eater, a creation of mind flayers that are made to consume the memories of beings until that creature becomes catatonic from its very mind being eaten away. These memories live on inside the Oblex, and carries every personality within itself like a set of masks it can don in order to fool others into consumption. It can even create duplicates with these personalities from its slim body. Up to 13 total can be maintained at once, each able to move up to 120 feet away from the host body, but tethered by a barely visible strand of slime. The only other giveaway is the tall tale scent of sulfur faintly wafting off the dupes, as otherwise they look, feel, and sound exactly like the creature that they're impersonating. Each of these simulacra act as an Oblex for the purpose of targeting, which means it can use any of its spells or abilities from these spaces, such as the unlimited number of uses of Charm Person it can use to lull a foe into following the Oblex to their doom, or its similarly limitless use of Detect Thoughts, which it can use to manipulate a target into believing its lies. Thrice daily, it can also use Dimension Door to escape trouble, Dominate Person to fully control someone that it convinced to believe its lies, and Telekinesis to forcibly bring foes closer to it for consumption if all else fails. Any creature within 10 feet of it can be subject to one of its 2 swipes of its pseudopods for an insane 46 plus 3 bludgeoning damage and 46 psychic, and any one target within 5 feet of it or its simulacra will also have their memories consumed, forcing a wisdom save or else dealing 8d10 psychic damage and draining its memory one stage. Each stage of memory drain causes larger and larger reductions to the ability checks and saving throws, starting at 1d4 but scaling by die sizes, until it goes from 1d12 to 1d20, at which point the target falls unconscious for 1 hour. The end of which ends the effect, but leaves a psychic imprint on the target within the Oblex as a new set of memories to make a simulacra from, and leaves them weak to the continuous assault of the Oblex, slowly eating their mind for sustenance, provided they survive the 48 d10 damage they would have taken to reach that point. The Oblex has access to skill proficiencies in language of any creatures under the effect of its memory drain, letting it become better at impersonation. Even without their skills, it has a proficiency in Arcana, Deception, History, Nature, Perception, and Religion, as well as Intelligence and Charisma saves. The other Oblex is immune to being blinded, charmed, deafened, exhausted, or knocked prone, given that it is an ooze that does not tire, has no ears or eyes, and carries a cacophony of minds burbling beneath its surface. It has blind sight out to 60 feet, but is thankfully unable to perceive beyond that radius, making it very reliant on its simulacra for sight. If you encounter one of these creatures, you should purge them with fire. Anytime they take fire damage, they get disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the end of their next turn, making it easier to keep pressure on them. A couple fireballs or so should render them motionless, eating away their 115 HP steadily, maybe one extra just to be safe. And Soren's way to number 5, what are the 2 most terrifying things you can face in Dungeons & Dragons? If you answered Dragon and Hydra, do I have some bad news for you? Our representative for CR11 from Fizbank's Treasury of Dragons is the Dracohydra, which is like if you took a Hydra and made it into a dragon. So ultimately a nightmare incarnate. These creatures do not naturally exist, but instead are some strange and warped attempt to create a being like Tiamat, mother of chromatic dragons. But don't let the fact that they are not quite her level of power make you underestimate them, for they are incredibly powerful beings. With a 17 AC and 218 HP, they will be surviving quite a few rounds of combat. Especially since every time they take 30 or more hit points of damage in a single turn, it loses one of its heads, of which it begins with 5. However, on its turn, it grows 2 heads for every head that it lost the previous round, getting back 10 HP for each head that comes back. On its turn, it makes a bite attack for each head it has, each one dealing 1d10 plus 5 damage from the Dracohydra's choice of acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. Every other round, it has access to a prismatic breath weapon that coats a 60-foot cone and deals a 60-10 damage of any of those 5 types to each creature, and it can choose a different type for each creature. If you thought, well, I'll just sneak up on this creature while it's asleep, allow me to elucidate you on why that's a bad decision. It has 1 head awake at all times, and the head has a passive perception score of 19 and 60 feet of dark vision, meaning it's liable to see your attempt coming, wake the rest, and now you have an angry dragon hydra hybrid staring you down. If you try to flee it without taking the disengage action, it can bite you with one of its heads, and it can make a number of those reaction attacks equal to the number of heads it has. This way, if 3 people run from it and it has 5 heads, each one of them gets 1 bite on the way out, and the other 2 heads still sit around waiting for their turn. Look on the bright side. This is actually way more generous than it was in 3.5 edition, where it made only 1 opportunity attack, but did so with every head at once on 1 target. So long as this creature has more than 1 head, it has advantage on saves against effects that would blind, charm, deafen, frighten, or stun it, or else otherwise render it unconscious. The bright side fighting this creature is that if you're able to kill all of its heads, it instantly dies without needing its full hit points reduced. The less bright side is that in order to prevent the heads from regenerating, you need to deal it radiant damage, unlike the regular Hydra that is weaker to fire damage. This makes clerics and paladins incredibly useful when fighting a Dracohydra. Appropriate given their nature as an attempt to recreate Tiamat or something like her. Try not to let this thing into the air. While it's on the ground, it may be able to make bite attacks, but at least it can't continuously do flybys with its breath while you're almost helpless to stop it. Showing that not all canines are good boys after all, at number 4, we have the Arcanaloth from the Monster Manual. This creature looks like a jackal-based humanoid in its native form, but this CR12 creature can assume any humanoid form with its innate alter self spell at will, taking whatever form will disarm their negotiator the best. These creatures hunger for new magics and new knowledge that can give them an edge over their competitors. As Yugoloths, they act as mercenaries in the Blood War, an endless conflict between devils and demons that keep both mostly too preoccupied to invade the material plane. Yugoloths only act in ways that feed their own avarice and ego, so they will need to be convinced that something is in their best interest or otherwise bribed with power or knowledge. Unfortunately, this means any Arcanaloth you encounter has a high chance of being paid top dollar to keep you out of wherever you're venturing in, or otherwise to end your existence. It's nothing personal though, merely business. Bear that in mind when you're experiencing the other side of a Finger of Death that kills one of your allies with its necrotic damage and brings them back as a zombie, or when Chain Lightning rips through you and 3 of your allies, scarring you with electrical burns. After all, an Arcanaloth is a 16th level spellcaster, only narrowly unable to cast 9th level spells. They have access to all of the grades. They have Shield to block incoming attacks, counter spells for enemy spells, Fireball for AoE damage, Banishment and Hold Monster for single target disables, and even Dimension Door to get as much distance as they need. They also have their innate magic, like the aforementioned Alter Self, but they also have access to unlimited uses of darkness to blind an entire room, heat metal to make foes drop their weapons, and invisibility to pair the Dimension Door spell to become an effective way to escape entirely. Of course, all of this magic must mean they are squishy, easily defeated wizards, right? Unfortunately, these fiends studied at the School of Hard Knocks. While they only have 104 HP, which is kind of low for the CR, they do have 17 AC, which can rise to 22 when they use shield to protect themselves, which I don't need to tell you is quite high. What about sneaking up on them so they don't have time to react to your attacks? Arcanaloths have 120 feet of true sight, which sees through all invisibility, darkness, shape change effects, and even into the ethereal plane, plus a passive perception of 17. So if physical attacks are less than helpful, what about magic? They also have magic resistance, so automatically have advantage on saves against spells and magic, plus they have proficiency in dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Your best odds are to use something non-magical that requires a strength or constitution saving throw then. And if you thought of poison, belay that thought because they are immune to poisons of all kinds, as well as to charms, so you can't charm monster your way through this encounter. They're also immune to acid damage, and they resist fire, lightning, and non-magical physical damage. This means that some of the spellcaster's best tools in their arsenal of magic destruction, namely Fireball and Lightning Bolt, are practically ineffectual against an Arcanaloth. For argument's sake, let's say you run an Arcanaloth fully out of spells. What is their next resource? If they must, they'll attack with a claw, dealing 2d4 plus 3 slashing damage, and an additional 3d6 poison damage on a failed con save. But more than likely, they will just flee. They'll go invisible with their innate invisibility, or use the cover of darkness to block visibility, and then use an innate ability that allows them to teleport 60 feet as an action before flying away. Of course, that's what went unmentioned. They have a fly speed just as fast as their ground speed, letting them keep airborne against you and your party. If you encounter an Arcanaloth, it would probably be better for you to negotiate it rather than fight. But be prepared to parse through a myriad of lies given their plus 11 bonus to deception. And most importantly, do not lie to them. They are just as good at seeing through lies as they are in telling them. Devilishly handy are the tiger-esque Rakshasa from the Monster Manual, our number 3 and rep for unlucky CR13. These creatures are devils of sort, or were once, before they underwent a ritual to free their essence from their bodies in order to escape the material with a physical form. It was a success, but unfortunately for them, they lose some benefits of their devil body as a result. No longer do they have the energy resistance and immunities of a devil, only having immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. However, if a piercing magic attack, such as from a bow or spear, wielded by a good creature strikes the Rakshasa, it takes double damage from the attack. With 110 HP and 16 AC, it doesn't stand out terribly far from the previous entry, but it only has a 40 feet movement. An unnatural born liar, the Rakshasa is proficient in deception and insight, so don't let them talk. They will sneak lies upon you until the point where they're tearing you to ribbons, or worse yet, making you tear your friends to ribbons. Its claws are very usable for this purpose, as you can make 2 of them, each dealing 2d6 plus 2 slashing damage, and cursing the creature to never know rest. Until they have the curse removed, such as with the remove curse, they cannot benefit from short or long rests. dooming them to eventually die from exhaustion. They have a number of spells usable innately, such as Detect Thoughts to know how to best manipulate you, or Disguise Self to pretend to be somewhat innocuous while plotting what meal your meat would go best in and what wine should be served with it, both of which can be used as many times as it wants. Thrice a day, the Rakshasa has access to spells like Charm Person to lightly take control of your mind, Suggestion to influence your decision-making process, and Invisibility to hide itself once combat is met. Once daily, it can take control of one of your allies with Dominate Person, lift itself into the air to avoid your blows with Fly, see through illusions, invisibility, and other trickery with True Seeing, and, if necessary, escape to fight again with Plane Shift. Notably, it is not self-only on its innate Plane Shift, so the creature can coerce or charm an ally into accompanying it into its destination. Now, while all of this is impressive, the real reason why the Rakshasa makes number 3 on this list is because they have an ability called Limited Magic Immunity. This is like a souped up magic resistance, giving advantage against spells and magical effects, but also giving immunity to any spells of 6th level or lower that the Rakshasa does not wish to be affected by. Because of this, it is immune to almost everything your spellcasters can throw at it, meaning that often half of your party becomes worthless in a fight against it. If you prepare for this, you can use your magic to enhance your party instead of using it directly against the Rakshasa, but many of the cleric and wizard's best spells are ones that this fiend would simply be immune to. And even if you do have a 7th level spell, you have at most one use of one 7th level spell, and the Rakshasa still has advantage on saving throws against it. This ability is so powerful that I don't know if I'd recommend using a Rakshasa for anything outside of a major antagonist as a DM, because I don't know if your players will ever forgive you for using one as a bit part or a random combat encounter. And fitting the game's names as Dungeons & Dragons, our penultimate monster is the adult Topaz dragon from Fizbank's Treasury of Dragons at number 2. This dragon is normally CR13, but it's CR14 when found within its lair, which gives it a number of advantages over its foes. Topaz dragons are attuned to the negative energies of the negative plane, formerly known as the negative energy plane, making them gloomy and morbid as a result. These huge dragons have a massive 210 HP and 18 AC, making it a real monster to fight. On the ground and in the water, it moves at 40 feet per movement, but in the air, it soars twice that at 80 feet of fly speed. Good luck sneaking up on it, as its blind sight out to 60 feet, dark vision out to 120 feet, and passive perception of 23. As one of the psionic dragons, Topaz dragons have telepathy alongside a few psionic abilities. Once per day, it could use Bane on one of its foes to reduce their efficacy, or control water to turn the shores they prefer into a death trap for anyone unfortunate enough to earn their ire. They can also physically teleport up to 60 feet as a bonus action, giving them the ability to maneuver 140 feet in a single turn without spending their action. Like many other true dragons, a Topaz dragon can be reasoned with. They may use their change shape ability as a bonus action to assume a more comfortable for you to communicate with form, if they so choose. Or perhaps reveal that the innocuous crab that overheard your entire conversation about Slay the Dragon that claimed this coast was the dragon itself. If you please them, they may use their ability to use Fabricate once per day to create for you objects that are mere trinkets to the dragon, but may hold great worth to you. If you displease them, you may be on the other side of their necrotic breath weapon, taking 10d6 necrotic damage and being weakened, getting disadvantage on all strength ability checks and saves, plus dealing half damage with strength-based attacks. They may not have magic resistance, but they do have proficiency in dexterity, constitution, wisdom, and charisma saves, making their lowest save bonuses into strength and intelligence, both at a +4. And if they happen to fail a save thrice per day, their legendary resistance allows them to succeed instead. As you might expect for once ocean dwellers with a necrotic breath weapon, they have resistance to cold and necrotic damage, and can breathe underwater just as well as on land, giving them multiple angles to assail you from. They get 3 legendary actions per round, choosing from making a claw attack on an adjacent enemy for 1d8 +4 slashing damage for 1 action, using its psychic step to teleport, or its psychonic spellcasting for 2 actions, or the ability Essential Reduction for all 3 actions. One creature or object within 60 feet of the dragon makes a constitution save, or else takes 8d6 necrotic damage. If they hit 0 HP from that, whatever it was crumbles to dust, making it much harder to restore either an object or a life. And because the adult Topaz dragon is in its lair, there are a few giveaways in the region, some more obvious than others. The stone within 6 miles slowly starts to turn to topaz, revealing new veins of topaz where none existed previously. Giant squid begin multiplying or appearing from elsewhere in the same radius, leading to a large population where previously Few or none existed before. When a creature finishes a long rest within 6 miles of the lair, that creature has to make a Constitution save, or be unable to reduce exhaustion or regain spent hit dice, though any creature with at least resistance to necrotic energy is immune to this effect. Lastly, the very waters of the region become a site for the dragon, allowing it to use clairvoyance at will within that radius, targeting any body of water and seeing through it. Within the lair itself, this power grows, allowing the dragon to take a lair action to telepathically charm one of its foes until the next turn, taking control of all of its actions so long as those actions aren't directly harmful to it. It can end the effects of a spell or 5th level or lower within the lair as a lair action, so long as it's aware of the spell, or it can choose 2 creatures to deal 4d6 necrotic damage unless each succeeds a Constitution save. Regardless of the results, no creature except the dragon can regain hit points within the lair until the next lair action is taken. With all of these abilities at its disposal, an adult Topaz dragon is a veritable boss fight on its own, making it easy as a pick for number 2. And finally, capping off our list at number 1, the most terrifying undead version of a beholder, we have CR15's representative, the Death Tyrant from the Monster Manual, fought within its lair. This creature comes to being when a beholder has a nightmare so powerful it imagines itself living in perpetuity beyond life, beyond death. When the beholder's reality warping powers turn inward like this, its flesh sloughs off and it becomes nothing more than a skull with spectral eye stalks, light glaring from behind each. This unliving nightmare has 187 HP and 19 AC, making it difficult to hit. As an undead being, it's unable to take poison damage. It also cannot be charmed, exhausted, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, or knocked prone. It maintains its frightening intellect in this form, meaning it only has upsides from undeath and no downsides. It is proficient in every type of saving throw except dexterity saves, and has a passive perception of 22. This creature is going to see you. And while you may be able to use area of effect spells on it, almost everything else will be relatively ineffectual. Instead of an anti-magic cone, the central eye of this beholder emits a 150-foot invisible cone over negative energy. Within this area, hit points cannot be regained, and any humanoid that dies within it raises as a zombie under the control of the Death Tyrant. While the Tyrant technically has a bite attack that deals 4d6 piercing damage, it's unlikely to use it over firing off 3 of its rays. These rays function identically to those of a beholder, meaning the Death Tyrant can hit you with any of an enervation ray that deals 8d8 necrotic damage on a failed save, a sleep ray that renders you unconscious for 1 minute, or even a petrification ray that turns you to stone. Much like the beholder, these rays could be different for the particular Death Tyrant, like having a banishment ray instead of a charm ray, a silence ray instead of paralyzing ray, or a circle of death ray that hits a sphere for less total damage to a larger total group instead of just a targeted death ray. Each round, the Death Tyrant has access to 3 legendary actions, each of which can be used to fire another one of these rays at random against any foe that has earned its malicious gaze. And that's not including any of the benefits of their lair. So long as the creature is within 1 mile of the lair, they feel the paranoia of the Death Tyrant pressing in on them, making it feel as though they are being watched even when they are alone. When a creature that is hostile to the Death Tyrant finishes a long rest within a mile of the lair, the DM rolls a d20 for that creature. On a roll of a 10 or lower, it means the creature is attacked by one of the eye rays of the Tyrant at random. Within the lair itself, the Tyrant can take any number of lair actions. It can make a 50-foot cube within 120 feet of itself filled with spectral eyes and tentacles, making it difficult terrain and lightly obscured for everything but itself until the next lair action. It can make the walls manifest spectral limbs, arms, and tentacles, and other things that grasp, such that any creature hostile to it that starts a turn within 10 feet of a wall are grappled at, having to make a dexterity save or else be grappled by the wall until 2 more lair actions are taken or they break free. Most simply, it could just open a spectral eye in the air with 50 feet of itself, firing a random eye ray at a target of the Tyrant's choice from that location. Because of this, a creature could find itself particularly focused over the span of a round, taking up to 7 eye rays at a time, provided it really dislikes one person in particular. And it may because, as mentioned previously, these are still beholders at heart. They are cruel, vicious, and filled with hatred for all other living things, believing wholeheartedly in their own magnificence. Because of its ability to keep you from healing indefinitely, raising your allies as zombies to fight at its side, and the potency of its many eye rays, especially given that each eye ray does not require concentration and let it disable more than one person at a time, the Death Tyrant claims the top spot amongst the CR15 without fail. And that's the top 10 strongest monsters of CR6 through CR15. There are a few powerful monsters at each of these CRs, but these are the top of the top. Are there any monsters you dread facing that didn't make the cut, or particular stories involving members of this list? If so, let us know down in the comments below.